Hello and namaskar to all the viewers, officials, principals, teachers, and dear students. Welcome you all to the Senior Intermediate Economics webinar, Chapter 7, Tertiary Sector, Part 2. I am Ranjita Logishetty, Principal, TSMS Nedumur. The children, the tertiary sector backbone of the social and economic development along with the social development of a region or a country. It provides services to the customers. This can be ranging from the banks where you all deposit your money up to the restaurants where you all go and have your food. It also provides a better technology like IT and even communication, which has been rising rapidly in the 21st century. Therefore, according to the International Financial Statistics Database, India is now standing the world's third largest place in gross domestic product, that is GDP, to the international dollars using the purchasing power of parity PPP. The tertiary sector therefore acts like a catalyst for a well-functioning of other sectors. Let's see what more deep insights today our presenter is going to tell in this wonderful session. Let's welcome Srimati P. Joshna Rani. Madam is working in Telangana Model Schools at Jakapalli, Narsapur Mandal and Medak district. As she is working as a postgraduate teacher in economics, she is a good teaching professional as she has an experience of 18 years. Let's welcome ma'am to the session. Ma'am, now the session is all yours.
Thank you, Ranjita Madam. A warm welcome to the principals of model schools, students and viewers. Myself, P. Josna Rani, PGT Economics, working at TSMS, Appalli, Narsapur, Medak. Children, today let us continue the previous session from our topic, tertiary sector. So now in this session, children, let us discuss on some more concepts like transport sector, telecom sector, banking sector, insurance sector, and space sector, children. And the learning objectives which we are going to learn after this session is we can understand the subsectors of infrastructure, to learn the types of transport sector, to differentiate sources of energy, to learn about telecom sector, to understand the importance of banking sector, to gain the significance of insurance sector, and to acquire knowledge regarding space sector, children. And children, here, infrastructure. Infrastructure is the set of fundamental facilities and systems that support the sustainable functionality of households and firms, children. The basic physical and organizational structures and facilities like buildings, roads, power supplies for the operation of society or enterprise. So infrastructure is very much important for us. So we look into the reasons why it is important. Here, the permanent assets, children. Here, infrastructure provides permanent assets that a society needs for the orderly operation of its economy as a driver of growth, jobs, and competitiveness. This is a connectivity. Infrastructure connects households across metropolitan areas to higher quality opportunities for employment, healthcare, and education. And these infrastructure act as supply chains. The economy needs reliable infrastructure to connect supply chains and efficiently move goods and services across borders, children. And for social change also, we need to have infrastructure. From transport systems to power generation facilities and water and sanitation networks, it provides the services that enable society to function and economies to thrive. And children, further mobility. Infrastructure definitely ensures the mobility of labor and capital within the economy, resulting in the overall growth of towns and cities. And here, children, employment, structure provide for a lot of employment opportunities and economic growth and elevation of poverty in the country. So here the infrastructure is important for economic growth and elevation of poverty in the country. And not only this, positive impact on education and health, good health and high level of education of labor causes economic growth, children. Here, children, we have two types of infrastructure, the economic infrastructure and social infrastructure. The basic economic infrastructure, the basic facilities and services which directly benefit the process of production and distribution of an economy comes under economic infrastructure. When we talk about the social infrastructure, it is the combination of basic facilities which are necessary for human development. Children, here in the economic infrastructure, you can see the various images, the transport sector, the electricity, okay, communication, the water, they all fall under this category of economic infrastructure, children. Then we have social infrastructure. Under this, the educational institutions, the auditoriums, the health facilities, the hospitals, the clinics, it all comes under social infrastructure. So here, all the people everywhere deserve the right care and life. So here, all the people, they can avail these facilities under social infrastructure. Then children, for power shortages and inadequate transport, provision of adequate infrastructure is essential for growth and for making growth inclusive. So what is growth inclusive, children? Here, in growth inclusive, all the sections of the society, they can avail the facilities. They can become the partners to avail all the benefits. So here infrastructure plays a crucial role here. Here, for this purpose, India recently launched the National Infrastructure Pipeline for the period of financial year 2020 to 2025. Here, children, if there is a power shortage, it leads to the dependence on expensive captive power, which in turn imposes high costs and lack of competitiveness for the economy. Here, children, even this you can see the picture here, children. Inadequate transportation in our model schools also. We can see the buses loaded with all the people, isn't it? The capacity is less, but the people travel are more number of people enter, and it may lead to accidents. So this is all due to the inadequate transportation. So here, inadequate transportation creates bottleneck in supply of raw materials and also in the movement of finished goods to the market. So not only that, the prices that farmers get for their produce get depressed because of inadequate transportation. And due to that, no good quality rural roads, then there will be no connectivity, which leads to the overall growth performance declines, children. So here inadequate transportation leads to the reduction in the growth performance. Then this national infrastructure pipeline, children. So India recently launched this program, that national infrastructure pipeline for the financial year 2020 and 2025. So here, this National Infrastructure Pipeline 2020-2025 is a first of its kind whole of government exercise to provide world-class infrastructure across India and improve the quality of life for all the citizens of our country. It aims to improve project preparation and attract investments into infrastructure. So here investment in infrastructure is necessary for the growth, the children. So to achieve the GDP of $5 trillion by 2024 and 25, India needs to spend about $1.4 trillion, that is 100 lakh crore rupees over these only on infrastructure. So to implement this program, projects are adequately prepared and launched. And NIP, National Infrastructure Pipeline, is expected to enable well-prepared infrastructure projects, which will create jobs, children. Many people will get job opportunities. And with the help of the incomes, they can improve their ease of living. There will be an improvement in the ease of living, which means they can avail physical amenities such as water supply, roads, electricity, etc., and provide equitable access to infrastructure for all. That is, for all means making this growth inclusive. That is, benefits incurred by every section of society. Then children, this NIP has projected total infrastructure investment of rupees 102 lakh crore during the period of financial year 2020 to 2025. So here, as per the NIP funding of the projects, central government, they will share 39%, whereas the state governments, they will fund 39%, and the private sector, they will give funding of 22%. And children, we are going to discuss about the transport sector. Transport is important because it enables communication, trade, and other forms of exchange between people that in turn establishes civilizations. Transport plays an important part in economic growth and globalization. And this transportation creates economic growth. Sound transportation investments lower the costs of moving people and goods. It increases economic productivity. Improved productivity leads to the higher standard of living, and high productivity transportation investments increase connectivity and reduce congestion. So here, transport system helps to send raw materials, fuel, and machineries to different industries. See here, children, transport sector. This transport infrastructure helps the economy as the blood circulation system of a human body. As without blood circulation, human body is waste. So here, transport infrastructure helps the economy as the blood circulation system of a human body. Here, road transport is the dominant mode of transportation in terms of its contribution to gross value added and traffic share, children. Here, children, transport system can present firms with a range of opportunities to reorganize their production and distribution channels. Here, transport sector has various means of transport. Here we have roadways, we have railways, we have airways, and we have waterways, children. Here, children, in 2017-18, the share of transport in the gross value added. We look into the road transport. Share of road transport in GVA is 3.06%, whereas railways is 0.75%, air transport is 0.15%, and water transport is 0.06%, children. So, children, in the pie graph, what we can observe is the share of road transport is higher when compared to other modes of transportation. And road transport is quicker, more convenient, and more flexible. It is particularly good for short distance travel, for movement of goods. India is a country of villages, and it is only roads which can connect villages. So roads make a crucial contribution to economic development and growth and bring important social benefits. So they are vital importance in order to make a nation grow and develop. In addition, providing access to employment, social, health and education services makes a road network crucial in fighting against poverty also. So road links producers to markets, workers to jobs, students to schools, and the sick to hospitals, children. Here, children, according to National Transport Development Policy Committee report, in 2011-12, road transport is estimated to handle 69% of countrywide traffic and 90% of passenger traffic and road network in the country. So what are the benefits we are getting with the help of the roads? So roads provide, it connects the remote areas, and they will open up the backward regions. Here roads facilitate access to markets, trade and investment, and provides crucial links with airports, railway stations, ports, and other logistical hubs, children. See, children, when we talk about the connectivity to remote areas, model school children especially knows where our schools are, how we are traveling. So here we are traveling to our schools only with the help of the roads. And children, we have a good network. Good road network is an essential requirement for the rapid growth of our economy. So children, here, the Ministry of Road Transport and Highways is mandated with the development and maintenance of road networks and implementation of the Motor Vehicle Act. So as on March 31st, 2018, India had a road network of about 59.04 lakh kilometers. Children, do you know the length of national highways? As on March 1st, 2019, it was 1.32 lakh kilometers. Here, children, we have railways. Railways carry people and goods to very long distances quickly and cheaply. When we compare the fare of the railways, they are cheaper than the roadways or other ways. It has efficient system of rail traffic signaling and communication system. It is also an economic lifeline of India since many passengers use it every single day and the Indian government gets a lot of revenue from railways. In terms of economy, railways played a major role in integrating markets and increasing trade. So railways stretches its hands in conducting activities like business, sightseeing, pilgrimage, along with transportation of goods. Children, it is easier for long distance to travel. It plays a vital role in national integration. It strengthens the development of the industries and agricultural sector, children. Then, children, you can see the railways. Here, railways were nationalized in 1950. Indian Railways is the third largest network in the world under single management, children. Here, railway safety is accorded the highest priority by Indian Railways and steps are being undertaken on a continuous basis to prevent accidents and to enhance safety of the passengers. Then, Indian Railways carried 120 crore tons of freight, 840 crore passengers, and world's largest passenger carrier, and it is the fourth largest freight carrier till it is according to 2018 and 19. Then, children, Indian Railways cover over 8,700 stations and carry around 230 lakh passengers daily. And there were special cleanliness campaigns also launched by our Indian Railways on October 2nd, 2014. That is Swachh Bharat Abhiyan. So here, children, you always want to make this cleanliness program a successful. Then modernization of stations. Here, 1,253 stations have been identified for development under Adarsh Station scheme and are planned to be developed by 2019-20 children. So according to IRSDC, that is Indian Railway Station Development Corporation, it is working on the modernization of many stations on a public-private partnership mode. Then children, we have airways, air transport. Air transport is an important enabler to achieving economic growth and development. Air transport facilitates integration into the global economy and provides vital connectivity on a national, regional, and international scale. It helps generate trade, it promotes tourism, and even create employment opportunities. So the air transport has reduced distances by reducing the travel time. See children, in no time we can go to any place. Nowadays, many people are going to different places by availing the facility of air transport. In an emergency, also people are using air transport. And for conducting various meetings also, the people availing this facility. So air travel is the fastest, most comfortable and prestigious mode of transport. So here, air transport is the third largest, India is the third largest domestic market for civil aviation in the world, children. And it has 136 commercially managed airports by Airport Authority of India and 6 under public-private partnerships for operation, maintenance and development of airports. Do you know children, our air transport in India, it was nationalized in 1953 and Indian Airlines and Air India were established. And Indian aviation re-established its resilience in the year 2019-20 and India stood first along with 7 other competitors in the world, USA, China, Japan, UK and some others in the Global Competitiveness Report 2019 of World Economic Forum. And here children, the airline operators in India have scaled up their aircraft seat capacity. This annual seats per capita in 2013 was 0.07, whereas it has increased to 0.12 in 2018, children. To ease the strain on existing airport capacities, 100 more airports are to be made operational by financial year 2023-24, besides using. So already we have all this. We have 46 idle airstrips. We have 16 private greenfield airports. We have 15 Airports Authority of India and 13 heliports we have and 12 water drones also we have, children. And here, children, to bring in efficiency and resources, 6 airports have been taken up for development under public-private partnership mode. Here, in which places? So here 6 airports are in Ahmedabad, Guwahati, Jaipur, Lucknow, Mangalore, Thiruvananthapuram. Then children, 5 new greenfield airports were successfully operationalized. Here, they are in Durgapur in West Bengal, Shirdi, Maharashtra, Pakyong in Sikkim, Kannur in Kerala, and Kalaburagi or Gulbarga in Karnataka. And children, we have water transport. Waterways are the cheapest means of transportation. They are the most suitable for carrying heavy and bulky goods. It is a fuel efficient and environmental friendly mode of transport. So better and improved water transport is one of the key factors to prosper and increase the GDP of any country, as it is a major way of trading and supplying goods from one country to another, children. So children, it's the cheapest and least polluting mode of transport. And shipping is basically used to transport bulk transport items like petroleum products, coal, etc. And water transport connects canals, lakes, rivers, backwaters within the country. And children, shipping connects the major ports of the country and the world. And children, we have 5,000 kilometers of river and canals, and we have vast potential of inland water transport also. Children, do you know the coastline is 7,156 kilometers, and we have 13 major ports and 200 non-major ports. And the share of shipping from this transport sector is 29%, children. And here, as per Economic Survey of India 2019, India has 0.9% share in world fleet as of January 2019. These ports, important ports like Paradeep, Chennai, Visakhapatnam, Deen Dayal, and Jawaharlal Nehru Port, these ports had the highest cargo capacity, children. And the total number of ships. Children, do you know how many ships are owned by Indian companies? They are 1,414 by 2019. It was 1,414 2019, whereas in 2010 it was only 1,040 ships. Then children, we have energy sector. Energy is a prime mover of economic growth and is vital to sustenance of the modern economy. Energy is the key input to drive and improve the life cycle. Primarily, it is a gift of the nature to the mankind in various forms. The consumption of energy is directly proportional to the progress of mankind. With the ever-growing population, improvement in living standard of the humanity, industrialization of developing countries like India, demand for energy is expected to increase. Then children, energy is one of the most important building blocks in human development. And in all the spheres of economic life, we need energy. So it is available in many forms. So children, you can see the availability of energy in the production process, in the distribution process, in the consumption process. In the production process, we'll collect the resources, we process them, and we manufacture the resources. And whereas in the distribution process, we transport the products to the distributors' warehouses and transport products to the retailers. And in the consumption process, we will be purchasing. So this is all possible only with the help of the energy. Children, economic growth depends on the availability and the use of energy. And the higher the per capita income, the higher is the energy consumption, children. Children, in our households also, from the morning till night, we use so many goods which run with the help of the energy, with the help of the electricity. So here, children, shortage of energy is a major obstacle to economic development. So children, as per Economic Survey 2019-20, India is the third largest energy consumer in the world after USA and China in 2017, with a share of 5.8% of the world's primary energy consumption. And let us discuss about the sources of energy. We have renewable and non-renewable energy resources and conventional and non-conventional energy sources. So here, children, when we talk about the renewable and non-renewable energy sources, renewable means a natural resource or a source of energy that is not depleted by use, such as water, wind. You can see the geothermal, solar, hydropower, biomass, they all comes under renewable, whereas oil, coal, natural gas, nuclear or non-renewable. And the use of the renewable energy resources in generating, resulting in less pollution and a significant effect on economic benefits and energy security. Children, here renewable energy is an energy that is produced from natural processes and continuously replenished. Here, types of renewable energy, we have solar energy, wind energy, hydroelectricity, geothermal energy, and bioenergy. So these are all the types of renewable energies. Children, solar energy. Solar energy, here you can see how the radiant light and heat energy from the sun is harnessed here. We are exploiting the sun's light and heat with the use of solar collectors. And these solar collectors collect the solar energy and then used to provide light, heat, and different other forms of electricity. Children, you can see that in the picture. Here, children, the solar power plants. India stands third in Asia and fourth in the world in terms of solar power production. So here, children, some of the country's biggest solar power plants are found in the states of Rajasthan, Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh, and Tamil Nadu. Then, children, we have wind energy. The most preferred locations for these wind energy is the high altitudes. The energy we get from winds is known as wind energy, children. We use large tall wind turbines that allow winds to generate electricity. You can see the turbines. With the turbines only we can generate electricity, children. See, children, the natural airflow on the surface of the earth is used to run the wind turbines, and these turbines are installed at high altitudes. Children, here wind power is one of the key renewable energy sources for electricity generation in India. And top 5 wind farms we find in Tamil Nadu, Kanyakumari, that is in Rajasthan, Jaisalmer wind farm, Maharashtra, Brahmanvel wind farm, and 2 wind farms we have. That is in Maharashtra, and Vankunswad wind farm also in Maharashtra. So here largest 5 wind farms will be finding 3 in Maharashtra, and 1 is Tamil Nadu and other one is in Rajasthan. Then, children, we have hydroelectricity. Hydroelectricity. Here this energy is another alternative source of energy that is generated by the construction of dams and reservoirs on the flowing water. See, children, in the picture you can see the dam, how the water, how the dams are constructed, and how this source is used in the production of electricity. You can see the kinetic energy from the flowing water is used to run the turbines which generate electricity. And tidal power. Tidal power also converts the energy of tides, and even the wave power, which captures the energy from the surface of the ocean waves for power generation, children. See, children, this hydro electricity also, 5 biggest hydro power plants are in India, that is in Uttarakhand, Maharashtra, Andhra Pradesh, Himachal Pradesh, and Gujarat, children. And India is the 7th largest producer of hydroelectricity in the world. Then, children, we have geothermal energy, which is generated through the natural hot springs, which is stored in the earth. You can see, children, from this hot water, the steam is transferred to the turbines. With the help of the generators, and the electricity is produced, children, here. And here, the thermal energy plants are in Chhattisgarh, Jammu and Kashmir, Gujarat, Himachal Pradesh, and Jharkhand. We have bioenergy, children. Biomass. Biomass has always been an important energy source for our country. It is renewable and widely available, and this is derived from the Biomass, which is a type of biological material derived from living organisms. This bioenergy is derived from the living organisms. You can see the children here. From the biomass only electricity is produced. According to Energy Statistics 2020, the total potential for renewable power generation in the country as on 31st March 2019 is estimated 1,97,465 megawatts. This includes 68.25% of the solar power and 27.54% of wind power. Remaining is in the form of small hydropower and biomass power. And this is the estimated potential of renewable power in India, children. We can see the solar energy, wind power, small hydropower, biomass power, and cogeneration, waste to energy. And here, the geographical distribution of renewable power as on 31st March 2019, children, the Rajasthan generates 15%, whereas the Gujarat 11%, Maharashtra 10%, and Jammu and Kashmir is also 10%. And non-renewable energy. A non-renewable energy is that which does not renew itself at a sufficient rate for sustainable economic extraction. Fossil fuels are mainly made up of carbon. So here, children, a non-renewable resource is a natural resource that cannot be readily replaced by natural means at a quick enough pace to keep up with consumption. So here, children, non-renewable energy comes from sources that will run out or will not be replenished in our lifetimes. So children, here we have coal, natural gas, oil, nuclear. This comes under fossil fuels. So here, non-renewable sources of energy can be classified into two categories. One is fossil fuels, that is coal, crude oil, natural gas, and nuclear fuels, children. And here, coal, children, here you can see the fossil fuels, coal, oil, natural gas. Here you can see how the coal is extracted. So here, these fossil fuels, they are formed from the fossilized buried remains of plants and animals that lived millions of years ago. So because of their origin, these fossil fuels have a high carbon content. Black or dark brown rock found mainly underground, used as fuel. Children, you can see how the coal is extracted. So coal deposits, they are mainly confined to eastern and south central parts of our country. And children, do you know, only the 5 states account for 98.09% of coal reserves. Which are those states? The states are Jharkhand, Odisha, Chhattisgarh, West Bengal, Madhya Pradesh, Telangana, and Maharashtra. These states account for 98.09% of coal reserves, whereas only Jharkhand, we have 25.88% and Odisha is 24.76%, children. Then children, crude oil. Crude oil, it is an unrefined petroleum. Here, the estimated reserves of crude oil in India on 31st March 2019 was 618.95 million tons, children. Whereas it was in 2018 was 594.69 million tons. Here we have increased this crude oil reserves. And the geographical distribution of crude oil. We can find most of the crude oil in the western offshores. Nearly 38% of the crude oil is found in the western offshore, followed by Assam, children. Then children, natural gas. It is a flammable gas consisting largely of methane and other hydrocarbons occurring naturally underground. And do you know, children, the reserves of natural gas in India? The reserves in 2018 were only 1,339.57 billion cubic meters, whereas it has increased to 1,380.63 billion cubic meters. Then children, maximum reserves of natural gas is found in our eastern offshores, that is 41%, and western offshore is 23.4%. Children, nuclear fuels, children, is a material used in nuclear power stations to produce heat to power turbines. Here the use of nuclear technology relying on fission requires naturally occurring radioactive materials as fuels. Here nuclear power provides about 6% of the world's energy and 13 to 14% of the world's electricity, children. Children, you can see how the processing is going on. Then non-renewable energy. Children, let us try to understand the advantages of non-renewable energy sources. So non-renewable source of energy is affordable. For instance, diesel and oil. Children, you know where we mostly use this diesel and oil, and this is easily accessible and more compatible. Then children, the non-renewable resources of energy is easy to store also. And children, we have disadvantages also. Non-renewable energy cannot be replaced once their energy source is used up. And the byproducts of non-renewable energy cause environmental damages and it also increases greenhouse gases, children. And here, children, conventional sources of energy. Here, what are conventional sources? Examples for this conventional sources of energy are firewood, the straw, dried dung, we have crude oil, we have natural gas, thermal energy, and hydropower energy. These conventional sources of energy can be described as non-renewable sources of energy which have been used since a long time. Conventional sources of energy are exclusively used by mankind, and the usage is so high that the reserves has got depleted to a great extent. And here, children, non-conventional sources of energy. Here we have non-conventional sources. Solar energy, we have wind energy and tide energy, that is tidal energy, are the non-conventional sources of energy. And we have geothermal also. Geothermal, nuclear energy and bioenergy are also non-conventional energy. And children, here the next very important sector is telecom sector, children. The telecom industries. The telecom industries within the sector of information and communication technology is made up of all telecommunication, telephone companies and internet service providers and plays a crucial role in the evolution of mobile communications and information society, children. So children, let us try to understand what is telecom sector again. The science and technology of communication at a distance by transmission of electrical impulses, electromagnetic waves or optical pulses as by telephone, radio, television or computer network is called telecom sector. And children, the telephone connections in India in 2014-15, there were only 9,961 lakhs, whereas in 2018-19, it has increased to 11,834 lakhs. And as on 30th September 2019, the total subscriptions in the rural areas were 5,147 lakhs, and in the urban areas, 6,796 lakhs children. Children, this telecom sector, the telecom sector, we have many advantages. We have telecom sector improves the efficiency in communication. It boosts the flexibility in working place, improves teamwork, and boosts customer relations and services. This telecom sector saves time, costs, and office space, provides employment. See, children, here at the end of September 2019, number of telephone connections. We have landline connections to 206 lakhs, whereas the wireless connections, you can see, children, how they have increased. Landline were only 206 lakhs, whereas the wireless connections is 11,736 lakhs. When it comes to number of subscribers, at the end of September 2019, wireless telephones, that is 98.27%, and landline telephone was only 1.73%. And children, not only this, if we look into the overall tele density in India, totally it is 90.45%. And in this rural tele density, we have 57.35%, and urban tele density is 160.71%. And number of connections, do you know, children? In the private sector, it is 88.81%. And the connections were 10,606 lakhs. Whereas the public sector, it is only 11.19%, and connections were 1,336 lakhs. And here, when we come to the internet subscribers, children, there were only 2014 to 2,516 lakhs, whereas in 2019, 6,653 lakhs subscribers were there for internet. And here, number of subscribers, mobile internet subscribers, 6,436 lakhs, and wireline internet subscribers, 217 lakhs. Children, you all know, in this pandemic situation, this internet subscribers and mobile phones also increased, because even for our online classes, okay, the small children also using the internet and also using the mobiles. And the total broadband connections here also increased from 610 lakhs in 2014 to 5,946 lakhs in 2019, children. So children, this has accelerated the growth in internet traffic, with data usage touching the highest ever level of 462 lakh terabytes in the year 2018, children. Here, telecom infrastructure and connectivity. For this, one of the program, that is a BharatNet, for achieving the goal of developing broadband highways as a part of Digital Indian campaign, the government is implementing this flagship BharatNet program in a phased manner for providing broadband connectivity to all the 2.5 lakh gram panchayats in the country. Broadband is nothing but the high-speed internet, children. We have public Wi-Fi access. Public Wi-Fi hotspots ensures last mile delivery of broadband to users and are much easier to scale than adding new mobile towers. And we have towers and BTS. BTS is base transceiver stations. They were only 7.9 lakhs in 2014 and increased to 21.8 lakhs in 2019, children. And optical fiber cables also increased. So in 2014, only 7 lakh kilometers. And this cable has increased to 14 lakh kilometers in 2019, children. And a project for left-wing extremism areas and Northeast region. The Department of Telecom executed a project for providing mobile services in 2,335 locations in Andhra Pradesh, Bihar, Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand, Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh, Odisha, Telangana, Uttar Pradesh, and West Bengal. And children, let us look into the banking sector. Banking sector. The RBI regulates and operates the banking system in India. See children, the banking sector is the lifeline of the modern economy. The banks play important role in the mobilization of deposits and disbursement of credit to various sectors of the economy. The loans and business investments are important for enabling economic growth, children. So here, children, the banking system comprises of Reserve Bank of India, which is the monetary authority of the country, scheduled commercial banks, and scheduled cooperative banks. Here, children, here, the scheduled commercial cooperative banks are those banks with a paid up capital of not less than 5 lakhs rupees. And they should enter into the Schedule B of RBI. And these commercial banks and cooperative banks, commercial banks and cooperative banks, commercial banks and cooperative banks are those banks with a paid up capital of not less than 5 lakhs entered in the Schedule B of RBI. They work in the interest of their depositors. So let us look into the principles of this commercial banks and the cooperative banks. So the commercial banks based on the principle of profit motive, whereas the cooperative banks are based on the principle of serving of their own members, that is the principle of cooperation. And here children, the commercial banks mobilize savings. They lend these savings as short-term investments. We have 20 private banks with large deposits were nationalized in 2 phases. Children, in 1969 once and 1980. And these RRBs, regional rural banks, were established in 1975. Children, there are commercial banks, but their area of operation is confined to rural areas. Their objective is to mobilize deposits and provide credit to small and marginal farmers, agricultural laborers, small entrepreneurs, and artisans in rural areas. Children, generally, you all know very well that we all belong to the farming community. We all belong to the farming community where most of the people, they are very poor. So for the credit facilities, these people approach the rural regional banks for the credit purpose. The small and marginal farmers, with the help of the credit, they will go for their livelihood. And in 1950-51, there were 430 commercial banks, children. And in 2007, there were 172 commercial banks, of which 27 were in a public sector. And State Bank of India is a leading public sector bank and had 6 associated banks, children. But in April 2017, the State Bank of India merged 5 of its subsidiaries and Bharatiya Mahila Bank with itself. And in April 2020, government implemented the merger of 10 public sector banks into 4. And children, what are the functions of these commercial banks? The first and the foremost function of the commercial bank is accepting deposits and advancing loans, and these banks keep a part of the deposit as a reserve with the RBI, and the balance amount of deposits is advanced as loans. In the process, credit creation is also done by the commercial banks, children. And here, children, cooperative banks. Cooperative banking system is hierarchical in functioning. Under the central cooperative bank, all the state cooperative banks function. Under the state cooperative bank, district cooperative banks function, and primary cooperative banks are located in villages and work under district cooperative banks in each district. Children, in our villages, In our mandal headquarters also, we can find cooperative banks, children. Here, and we have Reserve Bank of India. Reserve Bank of India, it was established in 1935 and nationalized in 1949, children. And children, as a Central Bank of India, it acts as bank of issue, bankers to the government, bankers bank, controller of credit, custodian of foreign exchange reserves, controlling authority of all financial institutions, and concentrates to control inflation, children. So children, in India, as a central bank, it is responsible for the issue and supply of Indian rupee and regulation of the Indian banking system. It is also manages the country's main payment systems and works to promote its economic development, children. And children, the next important sector is insurance sector, children. Children, you all know that insurance is a contract that pledges a payment of an amount to the person assured or the nominee on the happening of an event insured against. And the contract is valued for the payment of the insured amount during the date of maturity, the specific dates at periodical intervals, and the unfortunate event. And this insurance, it's an agreement by which the insurer gives financial protection to the person insured. And here we have two types of insurances, children. One is a life insurance and the other one is a general insurance. And insurance in India, life insurance business in India is started in the year 1818 and it was nationalized in 1956, children. So here, as on October 2018, Insurance Regulatory and Development Authority of India has recognized 24 life insurance companies, children. So this insurance is take care of our health, our house, our legal expenses, our liabilities, our business, our car, our travel, and our life, children. And General Insurance Corporation of India was formed with four subsidiaries. So what are those four subsidiaries of General Insurance Corporation? We have National Insurance Company Limited, New India Assurance Company Limited, Oriental Insurance Company Limited, and United Insurance Company Limited. And here, private general insurance companies, they were merged with these four subsidiaries, children. And along with those, we have two more specialized insurance companies, that is Agriculture Insurance Company of India Limited, Export Credit Guarantee Corporation of India were established to meet the specific requirement of agriculture and export, children. And children, we have IRDA. This is Insurance Regulatory Authority of India. This act was passed in 1999. And this IRDA, it was an autonomous body, children. And this has given a statutory status to regulate and develop the insurance industry. And who will promote, ensure and regulate our insurance and reassurance business? This IRDA, this Insurance Regulatory Authority of India. Then we have LIC. LIC is a Life Insurance Corporation of India. So children, LIC, it has different plans. We have Children Growth Fund here. We have Unit Linked Insurance, Health Insurance, Pension Plans, Group Insurance. And children, do you know what are the major objectives of this LIC? LIC, it is helpful for the backward sections of the population because it covers the risk of life. Maybe the socially, economically backward people, for covering the risk, they will approach the LIC. So to cover the risk of life at reasonable cost is the major objective of LIC. And not only this, even it provides security to the policy holders, money with higher returns. And to invest policy holders, money keeping in view of the advantage to investors and community, and to maximize savings by making insurance-linked savings attractive. And not only this, to maintain economy in operation and full realization of investors' money. Children, the General Insurance Corporation of India, what is the vision of GIC? What are the major objectives of this GIC? So here the major objectives is enhancing the profitability and financing strength for benefiting the global position, children. And for the risk management and innovative solutions also is the objective of GIC. And not only this, the protecting fair business practices and ethics and building mutually beneficial relationship with the business partners is also the major objective of GIC. And general insurance, it covers air travel, foreign travel, floods, marine, fire, and it also covers the burglary, children, burglary of households, the theft of and firms. Okay, LIC and GIC are the investment institutions, and they mobilize a large public savings. And the performance of insurance sector. See, children, there are two parameters. Based on the two parameters, we can assess the performance of the insurance sector, that is insurance penetration and insurance density. So here the measure of insurance penetration density reflects the development of insurance sector of a country. So here, children, insurance density is calculated as a ratio of premium to population, and whereas the insurance penetration is measured as a percentage of insurance premium to GDP. Then we have space sector, children. The space sector, India's expenditure on space program activities. So our country is giving very much importance for this space sector, which also falls under our tertiary sector. So India is spending on the design and development of a series of launch vehicles and related technologies, satellites and related technologies for Earth observation, and India also spending for telecommunication and broadband, navigation, and for meteorology and space science, and for the R&D in space sciences and planetary explorations, children. So space sector is given much importance, children. And in India spent about, do you know, children, how much India is spending on the space programs? In 2018, it spent $1.5 billion US. And under which programs the Indian space sector is spending? So for the satellite communication with the INSAT. What is INSAT, children? Indian National Satellite System. And GSAT is Geosynchronous Satellite System. This system addresses the needs for telecommunication, broadcasting, satellite-based broadband infrastructure in the country. So regarding the telecommunication, broadband, satellite-based infrastructure, this satellite communication gives us complete picture. It helps us in these infrastructure. And we have Earth observation by using space-based information for weather forecasting, disaster management, national resource mapping and governance. So children will be knowing the weather forecasting also with the help of this India Space Sector program. So under this program, they just want to make more important regarding the weather forecasting, disaster management, and national resource mapping and governance, children. And along with this, satellite aided navigation, including Gagan and Navik, that is navigation with the Indian constellation. So children, ISRO identified, Indian Space Research Organization identified following areas for attractive private investments in the space sector. For what purposes? In what areas? In which areas the private people are investing? In the production of polar satellite launch vehicles, and in the satellite integration and assembly, and production of composite materials, production of solid, liquid, cryogenic, and semi-cryogenic propellants, and production of electronic packages, testing and evaluation for avionics and satellite subsystems. So in all the areas, these areas are attracting private investments in the space sector. So children, let us come to the evaluation part. From the IP point of view, you should write an essay on the sources of energy in India, and you have to write regarding the various kinds of transport systems in India, and what are the major objectives of LIC, and what is BharatNet, and define fossil fuels, children. So, children, go through this unit, make a note of all the topics, you try to understand the various concepts and prepare well for the examination, children. All the best and thank you all. Thank you, children.
Thank you, ma'am. Children, the growth of a tertiary sector with a short span of 50 years since independence has been given a lion's share in GDP, that is 60%, and the labor force of 25%, which will continue to have a sustainable employment of majority of our Indian population. So this sector is a key driver of India's economic growth. Joshna ma'am, really you have given a very good detailed presentation of the tertiary sector with good data. In sector, import and of sector sub like putting and banking, tourism, etc. Really, it was a wonderful session, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, children, and thank you, viewers. And meet you all in the next session.
Thank you, ma'am.